Welcome to another episode of the Unblock Your BS podcast. Today's guest is one of our self-aware army members who just shows up for the community. Like if the community had a pulse, had a member that was like the welcoming community, it would be Adam. He is a man who is doing the healing work, who shows up for others. He has a heart to coach and heart to pour into others, and just like the most service oriented man in our program so far. Love it, love it. And so I was in the middle of Adam's also a one-on-one coaching client. And so we had a session and I knew that I wanted to have him on the podcast. And our conversation just started leaning in towards more of the topics that I wanted to share on the podcast. So I was recording and said, okay, I think we're going to bring this onto the podcast because you're touching on some great stuff. And this episode, we really talk about masculine versus feminine and healthy connections between the two. So it's not just about like what is masculine versus what is feminine. It's about where are we missing each other, right? Where is it, especially from a man who is working on healing, who is not afraid to be vulnerable and talk about his emotions. So together we unpack the dynamics that often cause men and women to miss each other, both emotionally and in vulnerability and in logistics and in functionality in life, and how both men and women, or masculine and feminine, can step into their authentic power to create deeper and more meaningful connections. Because at the baseline of everything that we do, it is for connection. We just often do it in unhealthy ways, or we're trying to get like needs from childhood or hurts from the past reconciled with our partner who's not the person who hurt you. And so Adam shares his perspective on modern masculinity. That's always a hot topic for the internet to chew on. The importance of being a safe partner, not just physically but mentally and emotionally, and why men often feel overlooked in the self-aware space. So we also explore what it takes for men to reclaim their grounded, healthy, masculine energy. And I love this conversation that we have. And for women to trust and soften into their feminine without losing their sense of independence. And as somebody who leans very heavily into their masculine right off the bat, as a single mom and a business owner, and I'm very comfy in my masculine, but that is not helping me draw in a partner that would be drawn to that in a healthy way. So he kind of schools me on that. Look out for that in the most beautiful and it's like he gave me what I needed to hear, not necessarily what I wanted to hear, and I appreciated that. So if you've ever wondered how to navigate the complexities of relationships or question what a safe, supportive partnership looks like, I'm sure this conversation is going to hit home. And for those of you out there who are like, are there really men out there who would like be open to having these deeper self-aware conversations? Let Adam be another piece of evidence for you that these type of men exist. And I love our conversation. I love how intelligently he speaks to these kinds of topics in just such an open and honest and direct kind of way. And so, yes, you were coming into, we had already had about 45 minutes of a coaching session at this point. And so I hit record right as we started getting into this. So I'm kind of starting off the conversation, not introducing Adam like I normally would, but picking up on the conversation where we're talking about how to have more of these types of conversations between men and women that starts to create more connection rather than more disconnect. So welcome to the podcast, Adam. And this has been totally selfish on my part of like, I want to understand the masculine men doing this work so that I can attract that type of partner because I've married basically a SEAL, right? The brutal military, got to prove something to dad stuff. And that didn't work for me. Thanks for the trauma. But I don't want it to be creating effeminate women. Like, I have a son. I want there to be power in the masculine that creates the safe space for the feminine, right? And knows how to do that. And I think, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to create this is have these conversations of how do we meet each other in the middle, right? Because men have the narrative that women shut them down and their emotions aren't safe with women, and women are like, men just are like Neanderthals who don't talk about feelings. And it's like, where's the common ground for us to come together?
And I find most of the common ground is in getting to understand the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
Most of the time, men don't spend any time getting to get their perspective seen and to spend seeing true females' perspective. Like most females are willing to give the these are the feelings I have. This is the expression I'm giving. This isn't the core of what I'm thinking at the bottom, right?
Right.
So men turn it off, right? They're like, oh, it's all the feelings. I don't care about the feelings. I don't want to see the feelings. I'm not interested. and they just turn off, right? So they
Yeah.
don't listen. And then when the ones that do listen are like, they never get down to the nitty gritty, right? It's always the feelings on the surface that are coming out and not the deeper, what's the cause? What's
Right.
underneath it? And I find most women don't want to express what's underneath it because they're afraid of the rejection.
Or they don't know. They haven't done that work to understand themselves. They just ever I think both parties, just very much generalizing, feel attacked
Yeah.
because they don't feel safe within themselves. They don't understand themselves. And so they're looking to their partner to give them an identity and define them. And that's where it gets dangerous. We get into codependency. And then, like, I'm dependent on you to be happy with me and how I show up for you in order for me to feel safe. And like, I'm a good partner and all this.
But I think they miss each other too, right? Like the men decide when I share, I want to go here and deep. And the women, when they want to share, they want to keep on the surface and kind of stay up. They miss each other.
Yeah.
And like the men don't want to come up to the feelings level and actually talk to that level. They want to talk. I've been dealing with this for,
What can I
yeah.
do?
Yeah, like strategy, help me figure out, like make my brain stop thinking this way. They don't want to deal with the feeling part
Yeah.
of what it creates. And then the women don't want to get into the depth of what it is that's causing the feeling. So I find that missing of each other is so common that that's oftentimes why people don't work out even in dating, because they're too busy missing each other for what they see on the surface or what they see in front of them. And they spend most of their time judging the other person versus just, I
Right.
mean, the reason why you and I have been able to connect on a lot of this is you started out with coaching session. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to listen and support and understand. That's a huge thing for most men to
All it
have.
takes to create a safe space for anyone is removing judgment. It's that simple. I don't know why I feel like it's like, come on, all you have to do is just sit there and listen without it taking it personally. Even when it's speaking to you, it's like, "Ooh, let's get curious. What do you mean by that? Tell me more."
Well, and the good thing for your part as a coach is you're a third party to the situation, right?
Right. I'm not emotionally
You're not emotionally invested in those people other than support,
yeah.
right? And I find most, and I think you said this on one of the TikToks this past couple days about therapists, like they're
Today, and I'm
was it today?
so unhappy. I'm like, "Look."
I'm sure. I'm sure. And some therapists do get into what the mechanisms are in people's lives, right? My daughter has a therapist like that. But it took her years, like 7 years to find this therapist.
Yep.
It was difficult.
Yep.
Um, where most therapists are dealing with the brain, right? They're
Yep.
what's happening in your
Talking
ego?
logic.
What are your logic? Why do you keep repeating this process? Right? Not the actions in your life and the things that are making up those things. But I think as a coach, coaching is very different, right? Coaching is the process of looking at all the aspects of your life and going,
Yeah.
what's the cause of some of this?
Yeah.
If
I
it
hate the
worked,
term coach, by the way.
I know.
I would not use it if there was a different term, but I feel like it's what's generally commonly known, and I can't label myself a therapist, nor would I want to. But I look at what I do as human behavior. I am an expert at human behavior and identifying patterns of behavior. And it's I don't know if it's autistic or ADHD related. I've been reading some of this stuff that like pattern recognition.
Neurodivergent. Sure.
Go, sure. But I can see people's patterns in the words that they say within a couple minutes or even just some mannerisms of like, oh, I know where their trauma is. Right. And so a lot of me with coaching is I'll pick up on things way early on. And I'm asking you better questions than you're asking yourself for you to start to get into where that root is. And then we can work through it. It's all people are not that different. Right. They express it and they have different experiences differently. But the root of all of that is usually abandonment, rejection from mom or dad in childhood that we and there's severity to it, there's levels to it, but it still exhibits in our adult relationships. And so it's going back and people are just fascinated of how like this innocuous moment in their childhood that they don't know why they remember, but they do. And like that's where a belief was created. And that's why it's unblock your BS, your belief systems that you created as a child that are not effective for you as an adult feeling the way you want to feel. Fascinating stuff.
Absolutely.
So where do you think so what it in your definition, what is healthy masculine?
Healthy masculine for me is having the confidence, right?
Yeah.
Like part of what most women want out of a healthy masculine man is confidence, is reassurance, is the capability of knowing something without having to have someone can come in that's insecure, and that masculine puts that at ease,
Yeah, like a
right? Versus
security.
a stability, right? Like
Yeah.
a strength and a stability. I think most people think of I think of masculine like a massive beam on a ship, like, or a
Mm.
mast, right? When people connect to that mast and tie themselves to it, right, on a ship, if the ship is getting tossed side to side, they feel secure,
Yeah.
right? Being around that thing, and they can hold tight to it. What I find most people think is masculine is the hull of the ship.
Mm.
You can't tie yourself to it. It tosses you to about, but it's large and it's strong and it's firm. And you think putting my feet down on that thing is what's going to keep me from tipping over. And what you find most people do is they skate over that masculine space, right? They struggle with like anchoring themselves to it and actually
Yeah.
being connected. Where a true sailor will tell you, you you anchor yourself to the mast. You
Mm.
don't anchor yourself to the ship. Like,
Yeah.
the ship will get flipped. The mast will still hold up, and the worst case, you untie yourself and swim,
Yeah.
right? If it does flip. But what'll happen is if you think that ship is going to hold you down, what you oftentimes find people is they're so insecure with their footing in that masculine space. A great example of this is the whole alpha beta male thing that
I had a guy tell me that on a date. I was like, if you have to tell me, you're definitely it.
yeah.
Male.
I'm an alpha male. Oh god. But that's the people.
Values.
I know my value.
Right.
People assume masculine is to be hard and harsh and
Yeah.
difficult or unemotional. And what I find most things that are actually masculine are the things that actually reassure people to be in the space that they need to be in. I can be around other masculine men and they can, or men who are the alpha guys, and they're like, you don't seem uncomfortable around us. I'm like, no, I'm secure in who I am.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that I used to deal with all the time in college was I was a skinny, scrawny, 140 pound, 6 foot tall, singer. Of course, everyone thought I was gay.
Yeah.
Like, and I was at a music school, right, with lots of gay guys. So I was getting hit on all the time by these guys. And they were like, but you don't seem uncomfortable that we hit on you. And I'm like, no, I'm uncomfortable in the fact that I love women. I don't know why that I should be uncomfortable with the fact that you think I'm attractive.
Right. It sounds
That's
like
a
a you
you
problem.
that's a you problem. That's what I used to say to my buddy Dave all the time that would hit on me. I said, that's a you problem, buddy. That's not a me problem. But
Sorry,
it's
I was sworn this way, you know. Love the women.
that's right. I'm like, I can't help it. I'm sorry. I love the women. He's like, but you'd be such a good gay guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yep.
But it's the insecure males that can't handle that, right?
Right.
They're not true. They're not grounded in their own masculinity of what they like and what they don't like, and having an identity of themselves there. They oftentimes just want the feminine to feed them their comfort.
Yeah. They're compensating for something. It's like we used to say when people had big trucks in high school, it's like, what are you compensating for? It's like, I've got to show, look at me, I'm a real man. Right. And it's be a real man. Don't say it.
Right.
Right. And what does that even mean? And it will be discretionary for every individual. Right. And some women will be drawn to that because it matches their identity of what they desire in a man. Cool. Right. And like surface level and just talking about manly stuff and doing in action, great, that works for some people. But I
Yeah.
think, and I think I've said this before, but my viewpoint on why males are struggling so much in this modern day society where women have found their voice and their power, we've had Me Too movement and all sorts of women equality and pay, is that we don't need men in the same transactional way that like the generations before us needed it. Women couldn't even get a bank account or rent an apartment up until like
Right.
the 1970s. So the dynamics have changed. And we have fought, maybe we girl bossed a little too close to the sun to get equality. And so our needs in a partner are not what has traditionally for hundreds of years been, where women were home and they did the emotional work, they raised the kids, they kept the house, And it's like now we have to go be out in the workforce. We want to be in the workforce. I don't think it's a have to. And we don't have to stay in toxic relationships anymore. And our, moms and grandparents and great grandparents didn't have that luxury if they weren't being mistreated. In fact, it wasn't even considered because there was no options. And so men have not evolved because that you were not brought up that way as a generation, right? You were taught
Mm.
that like your role is to provide and protect for your family. Forget the emotional labor, forget, keeping up with the house and all that kind of stuff. So now it's a little unequal in most dynamics, not all, where the women is having to provide financially and having to do all the other mom stuff and kid stuff and house stuff. And men are generally a little less equipped to be able to meet the woman's needs of what she actually needs, which is rest and a safe space to be her. And my analogy is not ship based. It's the man is the rock that the woman's waves of emotions crash into, and that's the stability, right? But there has to be balance to it. And I find that the independent woman, and I've definitely fallen into that category before, is that we try to meet these men as rocks, as other rocks. Like, let me speak your language, let me show you how independent I am. But then they kind of fall into the wave of the ocean crashing into the rock, and there's not that polarity in the right direction.
Well, I also think there's a sense, and having been with a single mom for the last 6 years, I can tell you it's very easy for her to be living in her masculine and in her space of where she's been for so long to take over that
Yeah.
when it's time to rest, she doesn't know what rest looks like. And I think you've said it too. It's like, hey, you get into the parent mode. I'm taking care of my life. I'm taking care of my kids. I'm an independent woman. A lot of that meets that's the rock meeting the rock, right? And versus you don't know how to crash up against that rock because you have yet to let yourself your back hasn't relaxed. You don't know what it's like to not have your spine straightened and stand up straight and protect yourself, right? And all of that protection is what scares away some of those truly masculine men because they're being met with masculine, right, energy. And what they're looking for is femininity.
That's my question. It's like, how do I'll just use myself as an example, right? Because I am very masculine leaning. Businesses, I'm very driven. It's created a lot of success and stability in my life when the men in my life couldn't provide that. And it's hard to navigate what is the balance to, I don't want to like let my businesses go and be like this damsel in distress because I have kids that rely on me. But also I want to be in my soft feminine. I want to draw and magnetize in that type of partner. And I work very hard at vulnerability and trying to build trust with someone early on so that I can start to show those softer sides. But that takes time and trust for those softer sides to come out. I'm not a super big ball buster anymore, but I used to be. And it's like, how do you
You're leading with the masculine, right? You're leading in well, and
what would
logic.
you do? Give me the
What
5 steps.
I wish I had 5 steps, but I can tell you what is better
Okay,
is
take that.
is being in your feminine early on.
Mm,
Presenting yourself in the feminine energy early on, not just in how you physically present yourself. I know a lot of women, especially single moms, they'll present themselves very in the feminine on the outside, but here,
edgy, I think. That girl black and leather on a date. Yeah, I need to set that up a little bit. Feel like a
now
sun
you're gonna tone that up a little bit, like give it some color.
industry for like 15 years.
I know you put some makeup on, just shine it up a little bit. But presenting yourself in that feminine energy, whatever that is for you too. Like for some women, that's putting on a colorful dress. That's being okay in their own skin as a woman. Because when you present yourself in pants and a shirt, and like you're not, this guy's just another meeting.
Yeah.
That's how he sees it as well, right? His energy is going to be okay. That she's obviously in the we're just meeting and talking thing.
Or what I
Now, it's
when
friendly.
they are drawn to that, right? Like, this
Oh yeah.
babe. Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I'm not-
And the overly feminine men can be almost overly drawn to that, right? You're the boss, babe. You're the rock. I can back off and let you have it all. And you're like, I'm looking for somebody to help me take over. Like,
Yeah, he wants a mom. This makes
and then you're spending all your time taking care of those guys, right? And then those are the guys.
dating history out of
I'm
mix.
sorry, girl. That did. Oh, I'm sorry.
I've created the awareness. That's why I've come back on dating because I was the problem. I get it.
No, but the other thing, the next thing I find most especially single moms do is after they presented, this is who I am, this is where I'm at. they do the "where are you at?" Most men don't know the answer to that,
Yeah. It's a very
right?
confronting question too.
It is.
Yeah.
And what it does is it's kind of like playing poker and saying, "Sorry, this is my hand. I'm out." And I've won this game. I take care of me. I don't need you.
Right.
What
What do
that
you
does
bring
to
to my
that
life? What do you bring to the
e
table?
exactly. And what that does to the man and his masculine, it says, "I don't really have a masculine energy to give you
Yeah.
that you haven't already taken ownership of," right? Part of what you're offering on the table is the opportunity for someone to be in that masculine space with you
Right.
and you to surrender that masculine space to them. Yes, that is a process, just like you're saying. And yes, you want to be more vulnerable as time goes on. You don't want to give that up right away. But one of the things you'll notice, especially about young women who are dating and have always lived in their feminine and haven't had to take care of kids or do any, they present themselves so overly feminine that the man is like, I want to swoop this girl up and take care of her. Right? They immediately come alongside those people and are like, yep, she needs me. Da, 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 da. Like that's also unhealthy too, right? That's not a healthy relationship. But what it does, it's the other end of that femininity, right? It's that far extreme of like, yeah, I want the man to sweep me off my feet thing. And oftentimes those relationships never work,
Right.
even short term, because everybody's at further ends of those extremes
Yeah.
versus
Great codependency and need,
yeah, the
desperation. Yeah.
everybody's dependent, right? Versus like kind of meeting each other in the middle. The meeting in the middle is a process. It never
Yeah.
is the beginning of a relationship. That's the third thing I'll say is like for most women, they want the man to meet them in the middle right away.
Yeah.
Show me you're independent. Show me you're
Rush into
capable.
it. I want
Meet me
stability now. I don't want to. Right. I
now,
don't want to wait
right?
forever.
Can I skip the steps? And get there first.
Mm-mm.
You can't skip the steps. You can't skip the flirting. That's another that'll be number 4, I'm sorry. But the flirting is like critical for men in their masculinity
Yeah.
because it says, "I see you, I want you, and I am appreciating you." Those are key components to men understanding themselves and their own masculinity. That energy of,
Mhm.
"This is who I am, and women want this from me," is when they can present themselves in their masculinity and women go, oh, I want to hang around that. I want to flirt around that. I want to tease at that. I want to
Yeah.
be playful because that playful energy comes from being able to flirt, being able to be in your feminine, right? The dichotomy of the two being opposites.
Yeah.
Now you play off of each other and you send things back and forth and it becomes playful. What we find mostly what happens and I think the alpha male would explain it this way. Well, she became so so tough about things after like the first week we flirted and then that was it. Like once we slept together, like she was, she just, I lost her. And it's like, yeah, she went back into her masculine because she realized she wasn't going to get that energy from you.
Yeah. See, I feel like it's the opposite for men is that they lose interest after you've slept with them very early on.
Well, that has to do with the consumerism of women, right? We've consumerized women, right? We've turned women into I, I can go find another. I can just go find another. That's not That's not relationship. None of that's real relationship. Real relationship is the process of getting to know and be invested in someone. And we've turned that into our commercial thing. Like we Tinder, there's a whole other list of women on the lit out there, especially if you're an attractive male who's capable of presenting yourself correctly.
Yeah.
And I say it that way intentionally because all they're doing is presenting. What you find when you peel it back is like, oh, there's nothing in this can.
The box is empty. Well, pretty.
It was a pretty box, but damn, this sucker's empty. And yeah, and he has all the muscles and he has all all the masculine external traits, but underneath the surface, there's no real masculinity there, right?
Yeah.
The mama's boy who's been taken care of too long, or the bachelor who's just filled his life with things, but hasn't filled it with people and relationship and depth, right? And most women want that depth person and want that energy to keep going. And what happens is that bachelor guy doesn't have depth to him because he hasn't gotten to really know himself. He's filled his life with I go hunting in the fall, I go to games and stuff in the winter. I go to hockey games. And like he's got his hit list of things he does in his life to keep his life full.
Yeah.
And what he believes that all that is the masculine energy. I hang out with my buddies, we do stuff together. That's all masculine. Where in all actuality, it's actually covering up the fact that you have yet to be masculine in your life. You have yet to anchor yourself in something truly masculine,
Yeah.
right? That feminine wants to be drawn to, right? Because a true feminine wants to be drawn to that masculine. Like there's a there's a pull there, right? There's a positive and negative, and they're like magnets. They pull towards each other. What I find most people don't understand about it is they think that pull is love or no, that's just the feminine and masculine deciding
Yeah.
they're in the right spaces and they're going to come together. Then the relationship, then the feelings start to emanate from that, right?
Yeah. So much wisdom in that. It's the attraction that then needs to build into attachment that then builds into love.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what we oftentimes do, like we were talking about the ones at the furthest ends, that codependence is just attachment, right? It says, a great example is a young girl who grows up on a farm, a dad who drives a truck, right? What's the guy she's going to go want to find? The cowboyish guy who's got the boots and the truck and the whole thing. And she finds him, she marries him, has kids with him, and then finds out when she's 35, he's been cheating, he's been, lying to her. He's never been the guy she thought he was. And he's never been truly who she wanted. And what she did was she found someone that was like her father
Mm-hmm.
that she could
Familiar.
codepend on. She felt familiar, she could go lean on
Yeah.
and go find that dependency on. And then when she wanted the emotional layer, actually her dad probably never had it either, right?
Yeah.
And then and then you find these grandmothers and moms and stuff who are later in life telling their daughters the stories of their husbands and their grandfathers, and they were like, "Oh, he was a good man. He loved me. He took care of us.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk to him about anything outside of the house or the kids."
Transactional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those transactional relationships, unfortunately, having just come out of one, um, I realize are so common, especially in the Midwest. I'm finding them much more common in the
Yeah.
Midwest. Um, Out east, it's a little less, mainly because it's more of the businessman, right? Who looks as if he's in his masculine, he's in his confidence with his suit, and he's taking care of life, and it looks like he's emotionally intelligent because he talks at those levels, and he's willing to converse. He has a different mask he's putting on, but it's no different than the Midwestern cowboy guy who's, loves country music in a truck, right?
Yeah.
They're the same guy, just in a different suit, right? They have yet to figure out how to understand the energy that they should be in for themselves, know their own identities, and then be able to draw people into that energy. See, like you were saying this to me before, like someone should be drawn to you when you're comfortable in your own vibration, in your own energy that you're building yourself. Those should be drawn to that at that moment.
Yeah.
And that brings up that vision that I had earlier about the stars and connecting and stitching. I think what I was trying to do in the vision was push my stars energy out to the other stars and make them
Mhm.
feel it. And what I realize now, it's the lines are going the other direction. They're being drawn to me, to be connected to me. And there's so much to that we don't understand still. I know I'm going to continue to learn from it. But I think a couple of breathwork sessions ago too, I had that feeling of people wanting to hold my hand.
Yeah.
Remember, I think I said that. And
Do remember.
there was a particular young male, probably he felt like he was like 6'4", big guy, football playerish, that I don't know if it was like a great grandson or something in the future, but he held my hand. He's like, I have to come hold his hand. I have to. And his energy was so strong. He's like, I'm here because of him.
Mm.
And it just made me realize, like, there's still hope for the future. There's still hope for so much for, like, my kids have chosen, right now, have chosen not to have kids. And I continue to hold out hope. You know, I've always wanted to be a grandpa. I've always wanted to have kids, great, yeah, grandkids and great grandkids. And just, they know me. They know I'm a dad. Like, I love being. parent and being around kids and stuff. But they also know their own lives, and I'm like never gonna push them like, we better have kids tomorrow.
Good for me.
Right? Have a grandkid. Let's go. Let's go. So I've I've told them like, when you're ready, you're ready. Like it'll happen when you're ready. I'm gonna try and help you guys with whatever I can in my life to pay it forward for you too. Like the generations growing up now, I feel so bad for them. They can't buy a house. Most of them, like I could have bought a house when I think I didn't buy a house till I was 30, but I could have bought a house at 25.
Damn.
I could have afforded a house at 25. They can't afford a house at
But they can also make money from their phone too, so at least for
20. That's
another
true.
7 days, but or you TikTok.
And there's so much of that going on.
Did I read you there's
Go ahead.
thought, but there was a poem I came across the other day from Kindred Spirit that like
Yeah, please.
wrecked me last night that I think, especially you being so poetic, speaks to a lot of this stuff. But was there a thought you were going to finish up before I read?
No, no. Go ahead.
Okay.
It was
So it's called Equal Energy from the Kindred Project Volume 2. And it says, the reality is you've never been given a chance to be soft, to relax, to relinquish. From the very beginning, you were forced into a role that demanded you be in control. And though you flourish as a leader, you desire something other than sovereignty. You've always been the one who was relied upon, yet rarely had anyone to rely on. And oh, how sweet it would be to just float, to just drift and flow and feel the freedom of getting lost in someone you trust, to sink into the embracing arms of someone unwavering, someone so fiercely loyal that when they look in their eyes, that when you look in their eyes, you see an unbreakable bond. You deserve an energy equal to your own, someone whose ambition and drive rises to meet you exactly where you are, where you've always been. For so long, you've carried the weight of unmet promises that turned into burdens. This is not your fault. Look how far you've come. It's easier to walk these roads alone than it is to drag someone along. All you ever ask for in return are the very same things you give away freely. Stop excusing your expectations. You deserve reciprocation.
God.
That had me in my feels so bad last night for like hours. And they put like this really amazing but like emo music to it. Oh God.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Music is the worst.
exactly.
The music is the worst when they get you with that one. Dude, you're
Oh,
like,
I do it all the time, every other week in breathwork session.
Yeah, that's true. You do. You do. You get us every time. Uh, I should read you the poem I wrote for New You.
Yes, please do.
So, New Year, New You. The fallacy of this is just so mind-boggling that one day in a year can transform you uh, going forward, as if the history you've had and the things you've done can be wiped away and a new story has begun. This is and isn't true. Believe, if you will, in the power of you, that making changes after seeing yourself differently will make the changes you've been seeking out. But it depends on you seeing you for who you really are. Are you willing to go there and accept that? If you see the same person making the same mistakes and not that version of you in the future that has made it in the past, you'll remain there. The real change comes from holding on to your real view of who you want to become. That person who isn't beating themselves up for not doing it right every day. That person who sees a more understanding person in the mirror. That person who leans into the support of themselves when it gets hard. That person who wants to be the change they need to become someone new. Not new in the sense of erasing their past, but new in the way they see their future, new in how they manage themselves, and new in how they talk to others about themselves. That new can be had, can be made, can be you, but not until you begin to see you for you.
So good. I love your poems. I just freaking love them. You need to get them out into something. And maybe audiobooks, you know, you were talking about your voice earlier.
I'm going to start recording. Part of the reason why I set all this up and get my podcast stuff set back up was like, I need to start recording again and start turning this into something.
Yeah, get your gift out into the world because we need more of it. It's such a gift to others.
And that was just me writing one day, just frustrated.
Yeah.
Like it was New Year's Day, I think. And I was just like, no, I have to start believing in this change.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be on New Year's Day. It can just be change. Be headed in a
That's right.
different direction,
Yeah.
you know?
Beautiful. Well, are you okay if I turn this last hour into the podcast? We'll clip out the personal stuff kind of at the beginning.
Yeah, that's fine. Do whatever you need.
That was great. And part of me was like, should I say that this would be awesome?
I could tell you were looking over at the clock too, and I'm like, she's gonna use this as a podcast. I could tell.
I know, and I felt you pick up on that too because you started like feeding into. I was like, okay, I think we're good. But
Yeah.
I mean and that's really what I love that these conversations is. I want people to be exposed to these types of conversations because they're so fucking powerful,
Yeah.
right? Like this type of stuff. I dig and I love and would spend all day every day having these types of conversations. And I know there's other people that crave that and don't understand how both men and women have these perspectives and how we meet in the middle and how we connect and how we have the deeper chats. So thank you for just like going on that. All right, Belle. Well, you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the snow.
We'll see how.
All right. We'll talk soon, Adam. Bye. Well, thank you to Adam today for coming on and being my guest. And I wanted to give you a quick little heads up. So, what if I told you in just 5 days you could take the first steps towards letting go of heartbreak, finding peace, and feeling like yourself again? Sounds pretty good, right? I've got something exciting for you upcoming in just a few weeks. I've got the Healing the Heartbreak 5-day challenge. So the registration is going to open March 1st. It's not ready yet, but I did want to plant the seed that this is going to be something that's pretty freaking awesome. So the challenge is completely free and it's designed to help you uncover what's been holding you back, right? Releasing the pain stored in the body and start creating the life you deserve from the inside out and finally letting go of the beliefs and the blocks and the heartbreak that's holding you back. And the best part, you'll even get to try out a breathwork experience for free as a part of that challenge. If you complete the challenge, you got to go through the 5 days to get the reward at the end, which is a somatic release breathwork session, virtual. Every bit of this is online. So no matter where you are in the world, you'll get to participate if you want to. So mark your calendars for March 1st. I will have more details coming up soon so that you can grab your spot. You don't want to miss this. If you have felt stuck, if you have felt blocked, if you keep seeing patterns of relationships that are just unhealthy and toxic and you want to get to the other side of it, this Healing to Heartbreak 5-day challenge is for you. So registration opens up on March 1st and I'll have more details then. All right. Have a good one.